Hello, more so contains invest. We talk about investing, finance, and professional. For today's systems only, the investment we're going to talk today will be Ethereum. First, I want to say happy Friday, everybody. A great week, by the way. Respect to recording time of 9:17 a.m. on Eastern Time. Ethereum currently $4,196, up about 2.21% so far. On over crypto markets, you can see clearly, majority of the coins are relatively, healthily green today. With selective coins microly driven by their own specific affectation. Solana, XRP, and ALGORAND are all down to leading more flat. Solana down about 1.5%, XRP down about 4%, while ALGORAND down about 0.66% so far, with Bitcoin currently leading the effort. And on the equity side, we can see clearly that Dow Jones is up about 0.48%, while Nasdaq is experiencing some correction, which makes sense because of the high competition with respect to some of the, high growth, small cap stocks, which are typically more volatile. So they're more prone to sell off whenever, beep hits the fan, if you know what I mean. And with respect to SPY, S&P 500 is currently up about 0.67%. And the highly anticipated CPI report released at 8:30 a.m. this morning, and I took a high-level read. Seems like inflation is definitely, worsening as expected. It's, not getting anywhere, really. We are still, we haven't really made major positive progression so far, right? And based on the comparisons, on Wall Street expectations, it surged by 6.8% in November, even more than expected. And if you compare that historically, it's the fastest rate in trajectory perspective since 1982. So if you exclude food and energy numbers in the report, CPI increased by 4.9%, which is in line with expectations, so it's not terrible. But the overall, surging price for food, energy, and shelter is the key drivers for this inflationary gains, right? So whenever you hear the keywords of inflationary gains or pressure, the safe haven instrument for that will be crypto, which technically drive the buying pressure that we see in front of our eyes right now, which also will be anti-correlating on the equity side. So we might see some more sell-off across the equity side, or it might not, depending on investor sentiment, right, or how the media affectation is going to spin it. So that's pretty much on the high-level numbers, the highly anticipated numbers. Seems like we are not getting any better, and obviously with the Omicron news, the Evergrande news that we heard from last night, the Kaiser default, and the cases seems like it's getting worsening on just in New York State. There were 20 people that was, identified that they have some Omicron-related symptoms, and they are putting some mandatory booster, extending that to even, younger folks in, age of 12, 15, that they need that mandatory booster shots. So it seems like, they are trying to contain it. But the COVID news, the COVID variant, is kind of difficult to control because there's still a selective group of people that are reluctant on getting that vaccination, right? And when you are doing that in the high density city, the city becomes kind of like a pseudo petri dish on cultivating the virus. And on top of the fact that people get sick, during winter more easily, is because you indoor and this the ventilation is not as fluid in comparisons to summertime. So that can also be a hindrance onto the progressions that we're trying to make, right? So overall, still a lot of up in the air type of things. And next week is going to be FOMC meeting. So we see how that goes, right? So it's been definitely a volatile couple of days, and still going to be a couple of days ahead as well. So let's just dive into the technicals right now. Let's not wait anymore, and then we'll dive into the news a little bit. So with respect to recording time of 9:21 a.m. on Eastern Time, Ethereum could trade $4,186, up about 2% so far. We're currently above the $4,150, which is the resistance level that we know, right? Based on the consolidation zone that we've experienced so far, right? And do we see more sell-off, right? Let's see on our RSI scale. We are at the 47 out of 70, so technically we're at the neutral level, right? Which seems like we're still within these, we're not in a head and shoulder pattern because the head and the shoulders are basically on par. So we're still in a very, very abstract cup and handle, if you may, right? And it seems like we're still in play. We are forming a good consolidation platform above the 4,000 mark. So we have to sustain above this critical level. Hopefully we could get a break by, ahead during this weekend, and obviously for FOMC meeting that, the COVID subsiding, that, there is some better improvement with respect to Evergrande, and there's some, just overall macro improvement, with respect to crypto. That's something we'll appreciate, right? We'll see how that goes, but we are ultimately in the business of risk mitigation, so these are the levels I would ideally, trim your fat or your mitigations from. And with respect to Bitcoin, we're currently up about 4.34%, floating between 52 and 48, right? So we can see that clearly we are sustaining above the 48 ever since the sell-off that we got to below 43, which was just a great opportunity. We're still oversold at the 37. So right now incurring some risk is not terrible still, right? Some people say like, oh, we're gonna hit like 37, or even like the low 35,000. I think that would be very, nonsensical because of the fact that we're very oversold. Like, how can you sell even further? Unless people sell on a loss, then that's the case. But we have already wiped out most of the leverage in play, so I don't see that happening. That'll be not the most logical in terms of the play. So with respect to Dogecoin, current about 2.5%. I think right now it's still a dip right now, 32 out of 70. We're still slowly curving up. So it seems like we're reviving a little bit. So yeah, Dogecoin still a buy. Cardano's up about 2.4%. Floating between the 134 to 120. Still a buy with a 32 out of 70. I don't foresee us to be drilling even further, like below 120. Because we're so oversold right now, and you can see it's just like a downward escalator. We are at the cusp of reversal right now, so this seems like a downward wedge as well. So yeah, Cardano is bullish, I would say. Solana down about 1.28%, or anywhere from 153, 133 to 113 are still the frame I would ideally dollar cost average at. XRP is down about 3.78%, 36 out of 70, so still not terrible, right? We're extremely oversold, obviously. We're at the 60 cents like during the last weekend, which was insane, right? So right now we're basically contemplating, do we go up to 88 or 78, right? So anywhere within the frame is still a good level to incur risk at. Polkadot is up about 1.55% right now. Anywhere from the current level to 25 is still the dip for us. ALGORAND is down about 0.79% so far. Anywhere from current level to 150 is still the dip. So right now I would say ALGORAND's a buy right now. Shiba Inu is up about 3.5% so far. Anywhere from, again, right, personal tolerance would be the 2,900 all the way to 900 from here. MacTech is up about close to 9% so far. Just a lot of volatility right now. It's sustaining with the 58 out of 70, so not the best, not the worst, right? But again, for me to even feel comfortable to have some incentive to buy would be 175 to 143. With respect to AVAX, up about 4.17%, anywhere from 81 to 60 is still the better dip for us, right? So with respect to Ethereum news, some of the news that I've been capturing here so far, not that active, but the one that is kind of worth mentioning is with respect to White Castle, which is like a fast food franchise, American fast food franchise. They basically announced that on their Twitter, that they're looking into investing into Ethereum, and they have their own NFT that they're releasing as well. So quite interesting. And then the other one is talk about with respect to the Evergrande news that we heard from yesterday. So we'll see how that progresses. It seems like the Chinese real estate market is definitely in big trouble for obvious reasons because of the COVID variants that we've been percolating for the last 2 years almost so far, right? So it's hard for people to pay rent or pay their bond payments on time when you are not making cash flow. Especially, they are bleeding cash on a monthly basis to pay the rent, right? When there isn't any tenants that can actually pay it. So you're just kind of bleeding money, right? Kind of comparable like to the WeWork model that doesn't quite work, right? If you have that much holding in real estate assets during the pandemic, if your tenants are not paying, there is no cash flow for you to pay your mortgage that you currently have, right? Then you eventually have to go default or go bankrupt or give your buildings back to the banks, right? But that would just be a sunken hole in the financial market because they do hold a lot of real estate, right? So anyway, so that's really pretty much the news. So on the risk management level, these are levels I've identified here so far for you guys. And again, these are for my personal conservatism, my risk tolerance level. Definitely volatile a couple of days. I hope that this weekend we're going to subside a little bit more. I hope that we're going to catch a break a little bit by the FOMC meeting. But I'm optimistic overall. I think the equity market is going to end on a good note by the end of this year because of just hedge fund activities, right? Their behavior is typically to window dress, to make their portfolio returns look better. So we will technically see some buying pressure at the end by the whales specifically. Ideally ahead of Christmas time and, ideally before the New Year's. So that's something we are optimistic of, doing so. And I think it also makes sense, right? So hopefully it's helpful on the CPI report recap. Let me know if you have any specific questions and stay tuned to come up. Take care. Bye.